Now, G-Shocks are known for their bulletproof durability and suite of functionality that makes them an indestructible Swiss Army knife. But in a world of digital displays that we stare at all day, what if what you're longing for is a sweeping second hand of a mechanical watch? Now enter the Sealander Extreme GMT, which is the birthchild of the Lumiere C60 and C63, all combined with an important addition. With its anti-shock holder, the Sealander Extreme GMT thrusts their mechanical lineup into the realm of G-Shocks that any watch enthusiast loves and appreciates. Now, why would someone want superior shock and vibration resistance? Honestly, I sat down and thought about 3 really relevant reasons why one would really actually desire this. First is anyone who's in the military, who often deals with heavy equipment. Think of the vibrations and jolts from firing a gun, or pilots on an airplane or helicopters that experience a lot of vibrations. Second would be industrial workers who work with heavy and expensive commercial equipment or gear that is constantly exposed to moving parts. Thirdly is the layman, like myself, who occasionally bumps their arms and wrists into doors or while grabbing the heavy box from the garage or even just mowing the lawn. Now, you don't need to wear an expensive watch to know how easy it is to scuff up and dent a watch just with daily wear. The reality is most Swiss movements won't be catastrophically damaged by the things that I mentioned, but it would easily increase the frequency of one's maintenance schedule. The Sealander Extreme GMT is built basically to be a tank to withstand any abuse, whether the vibration from a lawnmower or from that AR-15, which is what makes this watch a joy to wear. Yes, you pay for a premium for that peace of mind at just under $2,000 with the strap, but you're getting 3 separate worlds colliding: the theoretical toughness of a G-Shock, the sweeping movement of a mechanical, and the fine engineering of a Swiss-made watch. Now, with that long intro out of the way, let's dive into some pros and cons. Now, the first pro is actually how annoyingly gorgeous this watch is in person and how much a YouTube video will fail to capture all the little details that there are. All the different layers of the hands, on top of with the slightly lowered main face, in addition to the hand and markers, gives a depth that you simply can't get when looking at a digital face. Secondly, along with the multiple layers of depth, you also get a contrast of colors that scream adventure, but also with a mature refrain. In other words, you feel like you can wear this to almost anything except maybe a wedding. Third is actually a small quirk which I really appreciate, which is how the second hands extends to almost the edge of the crystal. And this gives it a sense of extreme just accuracy and clarity. Along with the orange tip and blacked out body of the second hands, it gives it a level of stealth and pop that feels surreal. Fourthly is its bezel. As you can see on my Mark III C60 Trident Pro, the bezels were thicker, which creates an illusion and proportion that gives the face of the watch an even more compact design. The bezel here on the Extreme GMT is thicker than your normal Sealander, which balances the watch face nicely in my opinion. And lastly is, despite its 41mm size, it sits somewhat comfortably on my 165mm wrist, or 6.5-inch wrist, which is shocking considering how I feel that anything beyond 38mm is simply egregious on my wrist. But Christopher Ward has managed to sneak in a manageable 48mm lug-to-lug, giving many of us dainty wrist wearers enough wiggle room to actually sneak in this 41mm size. Now, no watch is perfect, and there are indeed a few cons about the watch, first of which I'll get out of the way, which is the wristband. While it looks and actually feels great, it's simply designed suboptimally. Even with the smaller wristband size, there's enough fabric hanging out over the Velcro, and it doesn't actually even want to hold on because there's so much fabric on my 6.5-inch wrist. So, as you can see here, if I were to size it to my wrist, there's quite a bit of overlap here, and even when I push it up against the Velcro, it doesn't want to stay because there's just so much fabric hanging off the sides. And they have an interesting divot here, or division between where the actual Velcro holds on. And it would have been nice if this was a little bit maybe longer, or I'm not sure, maybe it extends the whole face. Now, I do think this fabric over time will start to wear out and you'll be able to cover it at any point along here, but you can't avoid the amount of fabric overhang that you get if you have a smaller wrist. Secondly is, despite my glowing thoughts about the size, I can't stop thinking about what a 39mm face would have looked like. It's obvious why they went with the 41mm, as I can imagine 99% of the demographics purchasing this watch are people or men who are on their feet more than their butt. And at this size, it's large enough to see the time clearly at a quick glance. But if they had launched a 39mm, for instance, I think it would have quickly invited even more of the market for those who have smaller statures and wrists such as myself. Thirdly is how the day date, when on some of the numbers, feels a little off-centered. Now, as you can see here, even with this 19th, today is November 19th, it feels as if it's leaning slightly to the left. And I see that with quite a few of the numbers itself, not all of them. I'll go through some of the different numbers for you to see here. But as you can see, it's a GMT hand. If I start to cycle through the number options, now when it hits the 20s, it feels a lot more centered. But when you get to some of the other number digits, let's say the single ones or the teens, it feels like it's just leaning slightly to the left. Here's the 1. Now, it looks almost perfectly centered, but then there's a part of it that also looks like it's leaning just a little bit. Also with a 2, which looks a little bit better as well. And you can see this throughout some of the numbers, and I don't think it's actually a QC issue. I think this happens with most of Seleda's SW date options, where they just lean ever so slightly to the direction that they move on from. And my last, not really complaint, I would just say desire, is that I wonder if they could have given us a C60 Trident Extreme instead of the Sealander, giving us a rotating bezel, along with the GMT hands. That would give it 3 different time zones, or even an option to be able to track time if you wanted to. And on top of that, 300 meters of water resistance. I think that would have been a very fitting name for the Extreme moniker that they're giving to this Sealander. Maybe that's in the works. In conclusion, the roots of Christopher Ward dive deep into blending robust functionality with elegance, as you can see here on both of these watches. Now, the C63 Sealander Extreme, they return back to some of the more extreme functions that I think not only just look good on paper, but indeed elicit feelings and emotions that some of their older watches gave to me, and also what I feel when I wear my G-Shock. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.